Good evening. Welcome to the workshop meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. Council members Mackenzie and Arnold are, I'm sorry. I'm just having I'm blanking today. Yes. Council members Mackenzie and Arnold are present. We do not have a quorum. However, we're not taking action, and it is 6:06 p.m. So we're going to go and start with the first item on the agenda, which is Ms. Brown. It's a pedestrian bridge update from Prime Engineering. That's right. My screen wasn't on.
Oh, mine's not on either. Okay, we're all blinking. It's just a blinking day. That's a good point.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kaylin Keeney, and I am the construction manager for the Global Gateway Pedestrian Bridge and Path Project. And we wanted to give an update on the progress of the project tonight. As you can see on the first slide, it's kind of an overview of what the bridge will look like once it's constructed, and then as well as the overall alignment and path locations. Next slide, please. Currently, is there a slide missing? Should be one in front of that. Go back.
This one?
No, it should be one that says Area 1 on it. If you start from the beginning. There's a slide missing. Okay, that's fine.
It's in our. We have it.
Yeah.
You have, okay.
It may not be there, but
not showing up.
It's
Okay,
here.
okay.
So.
Area 1, these are photos for those in the audience of Area 1. So this area is the area that's located within the GICC complex on the north side of the GICC. It starts at the People Mover, goes between the Marriott Marquis Hotel around the east side of the GICC through the parking lot, and then over. As you can see, all the trails are in place for the most part. The lighting is in place, and the only thing lacking is the striping, and what the contractor has requested is to wait and do the striping for the entire project at the very end once everything's in place. So there'll be a center line stripe down the center of the 10-foot wide path, to denote two-way traffic. And that's what these pictures show. So this is slide 2 here is project area 2. This is where the ramps come down to bridge number 1, which will cross Camp Creek Parkway. And then there's a secondary bridge that crosses the existing gas pipelines that feed the airport. And then ramps back down to grade at Yale Avenue, and then continues on grade, towards downtown. Everything is installed in this section from a concrete standpoint. The ramps are in place, as well as the walls for the ramps. The 4 concrete anchor blocks, if you've driven along Camp Creek Parkway, which are the supports for bridge number 1, have been installed for quite some time. Bridge number 2 has been installed. The only thing we're waiting on there is the handrail, which is currently being manufactured. And then all lighting has been installed, with the exception of the lighting on bridge number 1. And then that will be installed at a later date. And then same thing, the center line striping. So if you go to the next page, just an overview, you've got an aerial view taken by C.W. Matthews, the contractor, of where bridge number 1 is going to sit. That's the top left photo. The top right photo is standing on the south or the north side, looking south towards the GICC, where you will eventually walk across bridge number 1. The bottom left photo is the placement of bridge number 2 over the existing gas lines for Colonial and Plantation Pipeline. And then the picture number 4 is the ramp down from the arena in the GICC towards bridge number 1. So you're heading north in that direction. This here is photos of the actual arch structure from the manufacturing facility in Houston, Texas. It's 200-foot wide span, so I tried to do an aerial, like a panoramic of it, so you could see the magnitude of how big the structure is going to be when it spans Camp Creek Parkway. It's going to be a magnificent structure for the city. The bottom left photo is if you were standing directly under the bridge looking up That's the top of the arch. It's sitting on its side. This was the required fit up in the facility to make sure that the 5 pieces of this structure will fit together. We didn't want to find out in the field that it doesn't work. So they were able to confirm that all pieces were constructed correctly geometrically, and they will all fit once this goes up in the air in the next month or two. Going to the next slide. These are the handrails on the right, are the white handrails, and then on the top left are the red painted decorative hoops that will kind of encompass the bridge as you're going along and make it really stand out to anyone driving underneath this structure. Area 3 is the remaining section of the path. It starts at Napoleon and Yale, and it's on grade down Yale. It turns north, goes up Victoria, and then continues east along John Wesley to the downtown corridor where it's directly across from the College Park MARTA station. All segments of this part of the path are in place. All the site lighting has been installed. The only thing missing is the centerline striping on the trail. And then in this corridor, we are making the existing direction of traffic one-way. It's going to be one-way westbound on John Wesley and one-way eastbound on Yale. So on-street parking will be installed to allow people to park along the trail, as well as the striping to let people know. All signage is in place, but the striping has not been completed yet in this area. So if you go to the next set of photos, the top left photo is at the intersection of Yale and Conley Street, looking eastbound. The top right photo is at Napoleon and Yale, looking eastbound along the trail adjacent to the creek. Same thing, the bottom picture is the trail looking westbound on Yale near Conley Street with the creek on your left. So once everything is completed, all silt fence, orange tree fence, everything will be pulled, and it'll be a really great site for pedestrians to look at as they're walking. The next set of photos is top left is the new ADA ramp that was poured in front of the Odyssey House, and the ADA spaces will be painted back in place for the ADA accessibility to the top floor of that facility. The top right photo is also in front of the Odyssey House looking westbound down John Wesley, which will also have additional on-street parking in front of it. The bottom left photo is looking south down Victoria at the completed trail on the west side of Victoria, and the bottom right photo is at the intersection of Victoria and Yale, where the ADA ramps have been put back into place in that section of pathway. The next set of photos is at the intersection of John Wesley and Main Street, where the old State Farm building is, looking westbound down the path where the new ADA ramps have been installed at John Wesley and Main Street, and then further down John Wesley looking towards the Odyssey House is the bottom left photo. So from a remaining schedule standpoint, all 5 components of the main arch structure have been welded and completed. We are waiting on final sign-off of the ultrasonic testing, the welding inspections on the bridge. Everything should be painted this month, and with a delivery schedule of the arch in June to the site. We are looking at a July-August date to erect the arch. That'll take a 1-weekend closure, which we will give the city and GDOT enough notification, a minimum of 4 weeks, so that all parties can be notified and all the media can be announced on the closures. We'll have a 1 to 2 week break in between for the necessary welding inspections on the main arch, and then we'll have a secondary weekend closure to hang the rods, because it's a steel arch rod bridge, and the deck beams, and then pour the concrete decking. We'll need another couple of not full lane closures, but one-lane closures to do the decorative components, which will be done in September, October, which is installing the handrail, the ornamental hoops, and then the necessary screening you have to have over a GDOT roadway. So for September, October, we're looking at the final, cleanup of the bridge, handrails on walls, install the lighting on the bridge, and then striping and final cleanup. And then once the bridge has been delivered to the site, we'll have a better idea of when we can schedule the grand opening for the project. The final slide I have is the overall contract amount. The original contract amount was about $13.6 million. There was some credits that they were provided back from the contractor for $95,000 approximately. We had a couple of approved change orders for $150,000, so the current contract amount is about $13.7 million. The city has made a total of $11.2 million in payments, and the remaining budget to date is about $2.47 million to be paid to the contractor.
Thank you so much. Take questions.
Hi, thank you.
Councilmember
Okay.
McKenzie, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm new here.
Okay.
But I was quasi keeping up with this project, and from my understanding, this was supposed to be completed quite some time ago. So
Yes,
what
ma'am.
was the original, I've got 3 questions for you.
Okay.
What was the original completion date that we were given as a city? And how certain are we that these dates are, in stone? And what happened that caused the delay?
So the original completion date was August of this past year.
2023?
Yes, ma'am, with an original erection date for the bridge in June of 2023. The delays were with the complexity of the structure. When the contractor or the bridge manufacturer started to actually weld this kind of a box girder is what they are, box arch together, they had some difficulty in keeping the structure straight. So they had to weld in some extra bracing and stuff, and that took longer. And then there was also some delays with the welding inspections between their on-site inspectors they have and then the oversight that we had from GDOT. So there's a lot of back and forth because everybody has to be on the same page and work together, and it took longer than what we were expecting. So with that, all 5 pieces of the arch are complete.
No.
All the inspections are complete. We're waiting on sign off on those final 3 ultrasonic tests is what they call it. And once that's done, then the oversight from GDOT will be done in Texas.
Okay, so we still kind of have there's still one more piece that has to happen.
Yeah, we need that sign off. Everything is in painting. They are priming and painting the members as we speak, and that takes about 4 weeks. So barring any more delays with the inspections, we're pretty confident with the current schedule. We're staying on GDOT and sending emails daily, trying to get updates on these inspection reports.
Okay, I mean, because it's definitely a costly project, and we want it to be done correct. I'm kind of excited because we did the bida tour on Saturday.
Okay.
And we actually were able to just about walk as far as we could on the bridge without falling into Camp Creek Parkway.
Yeah.
And I actually had taken the walk with John, I think, was it December that we did? It was really cold outside, but
Okay.
we didn't go that far. So definitely excited, of course, but people are asking. It's way overdue, and I'm just hoping that now that everything will actually, that we will see this come to fruition before the end of this year. Okay.
Yeah, there's been a lot more oversight on this project because it's a specialty bridge, and ever since the bridge collapsed at Florida International University in Florida, and we were in the middle of design when that happened. GDOT's been a lot stricter in oversight because they want to make sure that there's no flaws, nothing. So that's the other thing that I think has slowed this down a little bit, is they're really crossing those T's and dotting those I's to make sure this thing is sound and no issues with it.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Hey, thank you for
Councilmember
coming
Carr, go right
out.
ahead.
Appreciate it. All right, so we know they need to sign off on the ultrasonics, but
Yes.
the test results were okay? We know that if we're painting, right?
Yes, they had indications. We went out and had a second trip to Houston to watch both parties doing it, and they all came up with the same, these have to be repaired. All repairs have been made, no indications.
Okay. And that was the spot weld issue that they were double checking on?
Yes, sir.
Last month and a few months before. Obviously, it's long overdue. So this remaining $2.4 million, that needs to be paid out to contractors, I understand, and whatever else needs to be due. Is that all that going to be spent, or are we coming in under budget?
I'm not sure where they're at.
Rob, you know?
No.
Yeah, the numbers that are presented are the numbers that we know about right now. There is one claim from the contractor on some delays that we're working through with GDOT.
Okay, and I know I understood we had some delays previously with some of the contractors, but we're going to make sure we get caught up and pay everybody that's done the work, right?
We don't know of anybody who has not been paid
Okay.
for the work they've done to date, and based on our understanding with C.W. Matthews, is they have actually paid out some in advance to this bridge fabricator to make sure that he finishes, even though we're holding funds back.
Okay, so everybody's caught up. So out of this $2.4 million remaining budget, how much did we put in contingency for this entire project? Ballpark.
There is no.
There is no contingency
No
on
contingency.
GDOT, on a GDOT project like this with ARC. There is none.
So will this $2.4 million actually be spent out, or is it savings?
I'm sorry, say it again, Joe.
So this $2.4 million remaining, will
Yep.
it actually be spent out, or is this savings?
Yes, it should be totally spent.
Okay.
As far as we know.
Okay, we want to make, so that all of that's allocated for something?
It is correct.
Okay, that answers that question. This bridge, that bridge collapse certainly spooked bridge projects nationwide, I understand. Again, I want to thank Congressman David Scott for making this happen. I want residents to keep in mind that this full freight 13.6 we're not spending as a city. This was a grant, it was a Tiger grant from the federal government. So the $3 million and change that we put into the pot, there's certainly money well spent to get a bridge that's going to connect us through our development project. So we're glad about that. I had one other thing. No, that you answered the question about the secondary weekend closures. City manager, how you doing?
Not bad, sir.
We want to make sure that our neighbors know far ahead of time, once we get the dates for the 2 weekend closures. This is very important to Raceway?
Racetrack.
The service station there. They want to know when that is happening. Also, the Delta Employees Parking Lot, who I've met with the manager of the parking lot, and they, always appreciate a heads up with things. And just in general, with the racetrack, they would like to make sure they get a calendar of the convention center big events, because the managers and the shift managers, they set their staffing. When we have a big event, it overloads their station. So if they know ahead of time, the managers can schedule when they know 8,000 people are coming for Spelman, for instance, and they're prepared. So we got to start communicating with our neighbors a little better. So, okay, good deal. Thank you.
Councilmember Arnold?
No questions.
Councilmember Gay?
No question.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
you.
Next up is a presentation by John Duke, Citywide Efficiency and Electrification of the City.
Can y'all see that?
We can.
Okay. I just got this together a little late, so I would have gotten you a packet. But thanks for letting me speak. The purpose really is just to create some awareness and to throw some policy ideas out about how to manage our power company. So first, by the way, this is probably about a 9-minute presentation, so I'm going to go through it as fast as I can and not try to bore anyone. But and so if anybody has any questions, just ask me at the end if you have an issue with the terminology or anything. So first a bit of big picture overview. The world is now adding over 1 gigawatt of solar power capacity every single day. Half of that in China, half of that the rest of the world. I will explain what a gigawatt is later in this presentation. At $1 per watt to build at utility scale, and on average being 4 cents per kilowatt hour, solar power is now the cheapest form of electricity in the history of the world. Point number 2 on this slide, electric consumption has been flat since the Great Recession due to gains in efficiency, even with 2.5 million EVs on the road now. Notice the difference in sales among different states. You see who cares about efficiency and who doesn't. Next, please. So MEAG owns half as much of Plant Vogtle, roughly 50% versus 25%, but only has 1/6 as many customers as Georgia Power. Thus, College Park Power can claim to be 90% emissions-free, while Georgia Power is still heavily reliant on fossil fuels. Next. Nuclear power displaces clean electricity, however. It is because it is incredibly expensive to build and costs 10 times more to build than solar power. Therefore, it must run 24/7, 365 days a year for 60 years and finally pay off the investment on the last day of operation. As the world continues to add more than 1 nuclear plant's worth of renewables every day, the clean energy queue, that is stuff that can't get connected to the power lines, continues to grow. Clean power waiting in line is now 2 times more than the entire United States electric grid capacity. Next, please. Meanwhile, battery storage, whether charged from renewable power, nuclear, or fossil sources, is booming, and batteries are falling in price. It is a reliable way to stabilize peak demand. It can be ramped up or down instantaneously. It saved Texas from rolling blackouts during the heat waves of last summer. Next, please. By the way, we will mine less stuff when we completely transition away from fossil fuels than we do today. 500 times less, in fact. It is roughly 15 billion tons versus 30 million tons per year. Next. It's the economy, stupid. Well, I say it's actually peak demand, dummy. Peak demand is why we build new lanes on highways. But it is an inefficient and expensive way to deal with traffic peaks that occur only 2 times per day. In a similar fashion, it is peak demand that prevents us from becoming 100% clean energy sooner. The daily duck curve was coined when we started adding distributed solar power. That's power that's not coming in from a monopoly source, from homes and businesses. It greatly decreases demand and also adds excess power to the grid on a daily basis during the solar parabola. This excess energy, however, could be stored, thus the battery boom. Next. California has been shattering renewable energy records over the last 2 months. Granted, it is during a time when demand is low in the springtime and renewable output is high. But you have to remember, 10 years ago, we were told renewables could never compete with fossil on price. And this battery power that they're using is 60 times more than they had just 5 years ago, which speaks to the falling battery prices. Next. So, why can't the South ever lead? Why can't College Park lead? We have a MEAG franchise, and we should leverage it to the best of our ability. Why can't we be the first municipality in Georgia with 100% clean energy? Atlanta or Hayville ain't got nothing on us. Next, please. If you had a McDonald's franchise, you wouldn't tell people to go buy Chick-fil-A, would you? So why are we partnering with Gas South? We should be electrifying all we can and sell more power. Next. So here's some terminology. Kilowatt is potential power. Kilowatt hour is how we sell electricity. It is work done, it is power over time, or it is how much energy is stored in batteries. Measuring it is like counting money. There are 1,000 pennies in a $10 bill. There are 1,000 kilowatts in a megawatt, and there is 1,000 megawatts in 1 gigawatt. One nuclear reactor at Plant Vogtle is 1,000 megawatts or 1 gigawatt. College Park Power buys electricity on average for 6 cents a kilowatt hour and sells it on average for about 14 cents a kilowatt hour, which is a profit margin of more than 100%. By the way, College Park Power is buying peak solar power at less than 3 cents per kilowatt hour, which is half of our average cost to purchase electricity. Next. Electrifying all we can would provide a steady revenue stream to the city. It could benefit our citizens greatly, and it is the right thing to do. Fossil fuel prices are extremely volatile. Electricity prices, however, are stable. Next. The Georgia Environmental Finance Committee submitted their application on March 22nd for $219 million to be given out as rebates under the Inflation Reduction Act. These rebates are for electric panel upgrades in homes, for efficiency upgrades like LED lighting and insulation, and for electrifying appliances like hot water heaters and heat pumps. Next. Rebates range from anywhere from $840 to $8,000. Next. So rebates are given out according to income level in relation to the area median income. For the Atlanta area, low-income families get a 100% rebate, and middle-income families get a 50% rebate. Low income is below 80% AMI, and middle income is below 150% AMI, and that is the AMI chart, which I could give you later. Next. Here are the federal tax credits for electrification that apply to everyone, regardless of income. You just have to have the tax liability. And a reminder, tax credit is money in your pocket and is more impactful than tax deductions. Next. And there are other tools in the to maximize College Park Power profit, to help us move to 100% clean energy, and to benefit College Park ratepayers if we establish our own programs. And, you know, they include a whole lot of things, which probably is a whole nother discussion, but variable rate pricing to send a signal, installing plugs at parks and on telephone poles for food truck generators, College Park's own IRA program for low income and apartments like insulation, battery storage systems on buildings for emergency outage and reducing peak demand, you know, like electrification garbage trucks, because they're with electrified vehicles, it's one pedal driving and it's great for short distances. Transmission line upgrades, there's federal infrastructure money on that. Could be a MEAG project in itself. Transitioning city gas appliances. This is huge to electric, like for example, the hot water heater at the GICC, and then also heating and cooling with heat pumps. Next. Here's Georgia Power's variable pricing plan. This lets a battery pay for itself. You fill it when demand is low and you discharge it when demand is high. The high peak rate when demand is high is only 5% of the hours in a year and occurs in the summertime from June through September and from 2 to 7 p.m. It makes us all have skin in the game. For example, in Minnesota, it has always been a normal way of life. everyone gets it. It provides an avenue for demand flexibility. Next. And finally, there is more sun that hits the earth in 1 hour than humanity uses in a whole year. Renewable energy could save the world $4.2 trillion a year in energy cost. You would need only 2.9% of land area to provide all of Atlanta's energy needs with solar plus storage. Less if you got serious about demand flexibility and efficiency. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember McKenzie, any questions?
Yeah, well, of course, I'm definitely an advocate for renewable energy and saving the planet. So, hearing what you're saying, and in terms of electrifying the city of College Park, what would that look like? Meaning, I guess my question is the how.
So
How do we do this?
well, that's why I brought up the Inflation Reduction Act rebates that are coming down the pike. So that's going to happen whether you want people to electrify or not. I mean, and I'm just saying, be aware because it's coming. So when I say electrify the whole city, I'm not just necessarily saying just like what City Hall does or the city's properties or your vehicles or whatever, which would be great. But I'm just saying, all 14,000 residents, pushing toward electrification. And so the more you do want to push efficiency, which will decrease our income, but on the other hand, you're going to come out ahead anyway because you're going to, if everyone electrified, your power profits and income is going to actually increase even while everybody wins. You're going to increase your profits and your College Park power income while also making everyone else's energy bills fall down. It's for everyone. So, yeah.
So I guess, and I understand the city is one thing in terms of our city buildings, but you're talking about our residents as well. And so I see the rebates, but are there any plans, for appliances that are not like, a lot of people have gas stoves, they have the gas, their dryers, and so those, but I didn't see anything.
So the rebates go toward that.
They will, okay, so that's,
absolutely. You can get, low income, less than 80% AMI.
Okay.
Going to get 100% rebate. If you change out your stove, if you change out your gas heating system to a heat pump, if you change your hot water heater out, if you're less than 100, if you're between 80 and 150% AMI, you're going to get half your money back.
Okay.
And yes, the capital investment is the big hurdle on electrification.
Yeah.
Right? But, it pays for itself. Over a long period of time, you have a payback period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Councilmember Curran, any questions?
All right, Dr. Duke, good presentation there.
Thank you.
I see Glenn back there. Glenn, come on up here for a quick second. I know you got some facts on some of this stuff too.
Yes, sir.
So, do we currently give a rebate for switching to electric appliances right now?
We do not.
Okay, so City Manager, I think that's something maybe we need to consider. I know Georgia Power had a program, but obviously, the more folks that switch to electric in the city, the better for us. So I think that's something definitely worth us exploring because we want to, maximize as much as possible. And also, the last time I checked, we're in summer rates now. Have we kicked into summer rates now? Yeah. Now, we are still 10 to 12% less than Georgia Power for the same number of kilowatt hours that you would get with Georgia Power. City Manager, that's another thing we need to emphasize with our residents. Part of living here in College Park, there are a lot of savings and benefits that we don't tout enough and communicate enough. Now, if you're paying, $100 with Georgia Power, you're going to pay 12% less in College Park. That's worth something. But the problem is our residents don't know about it. And, I was up at Hawthorne Station, and they'd ask about solar panels, and they said, ask about the bills. And I did explain to them, I said, well, if you were somewhere else, you'd be paying 12% more for the same amount of electricity. And it kind of dawned on them, but again, people need to know about that. Glenn, I heard him talking about the 90% renewables and that we're moving towards that with Vogel being all the way on. What would it take to get to 100%? Is that even possible for us, or what do you think?
It's kind of a goal. I don't think it's possible. But what we would maybe get closer to that goal by MEAG investing in solar farms and things like that.
Well, I'd like to find out, I know the conference is coming up in July, I'd like to find out where we are percentage-wise, thereabout exactly, and how does that size up to our neighbors, or South Fulton and East Point or whatever. That's another plus we want to tout. If we are that high of a percentage in clean energy, I'd like to know exactly where we're at, so that would be a good deal to know. The other thing is, ultimately, I'd like us, city manager, to look at the possibility of some electric fleet vehicles. I don't know if garbage trucks are the answer, but some of the other vehicles perhaps. We have those 12,000-gallon tanks down there that we fill up with diesel and unleaded, and if we can do some electric, obviously it's going to cost us a whole lot less. So maybe that's something to look at in a future budget cycle. So, but renewables are, I talk to my residents a lot, and as they get younger and younger, there seems to be more of an interest in renewables. So that's very important. So yeah, good stuff.
Councilmember Arnold?
Actually, I don't have anything to say other than very good presentation. Yeah.
Councilmember Gay?
John, I just want to piggyback on a couple comments you made. You said because we purchased from MEAG, we are almost fossil fuel free because I guess we were one of the larger wholesalers and we depend less on. Is that what he was saying?
No, the reason is because we have an outsized investment in Plant Vogtle. So, yeah, that's why.
Okay. One of the things you brought up is that we buy how much, Glenn, from MEAG? Did he say how many megawatts you said we buy, Glenn, from MEAG?
Yeah,
How many did you say?
it's slide number,
I think
number
you said
2.
400 and something.
Yeah, it's slide number 2. No, go to the next. No, it's not. Wait a minute, hold on. It's slide number 6. No, it's not it either. Wait a minute.
I think you said
hold on.
460.
It's slide number 10, sorry. Yeah, right there. We buy 590,000, megawatt hours.
Is that the same as megawatts?
No, so megawatt hours is the actual electricity unit that you pay for.
How many megawatts?
You can't measure that. Megawatts is like capacity, like what you could potentially do.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. So the parallel I was trying to make is that you talk a little bit about battery storage, and there's a lot of controversy about the next air battery. But interesting enough, it produces 450 megawatts.
Yeah.
450 megawatts. The airport needs 65 million megawatts. So I guess I'm trying to say, you talk a lot about College Park taking the lead on being, but we are taking the lead. We just haven't quite understood what this means or what it looks like. Once we get past the perception of safety, and that'll be a job for our engineers. But once we get past those, we are taking the lead. We may be the only city in this region that'll have that much power. In fact, to your point, we'll have more power at that battery farm than we buy from MEAG. And so right now, I'm at awe what that looks like, from powering the airport to Conrad So we getting there, we haven't got there yet. So your presentation kind of aligns with that thought process, so it's kind of
Yeah.
timely, okay?
Yeah, we're making progress. I'm just saying we're really close, and I know Glenn here says MEAG needs to make the solar production, and he's right, but what I'm trying to get at here is there are policy ideas that you could discuss and talk about that you could get where College Park Power doesn't need to buy any power from, say, the gas turbines, at some of those gas peaker plants that MEAG owns. Through some tweaking of how you actually manage how power is distributed out. You see, this is what I was trying to get at with peak demand. It's all about peak demand. Because at midnight, you can't even sell enough. You're throwing power away. Did you know that, right? At midnight, you're literally, it's called curtailment. You're literally throwing it away because you don't know you can't shut down.
And you're arguing an excellent case for the next set battery storage because that's what this is all about, peak demand.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, to get to a situation where you could say we're 100% carbon free, and doing it through getting all of the citizens on board, though. It's getting all 14,000 and all of us understanding what demand flexibility means, And then the point is you're selling more electricity, so you turn that franchise into a profit center, and then you're helping everybody in the city by, with your own, like Councilman Carnes said, like our own rebate program for people in apartments who, can't go buy an electric stove, something. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Councilmember Arnold has a follow-up question.
Okay.
I do. We did not have your slides in the packet, your slides inside of our packet. Do you have copies?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have it.
Okay.
But I'll have to, can you make a copy of it? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just didn't have time to make it, but thanks.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
It's great.
Next, we're talking about regarding the restructuring of public comment. Who's leading this discussion? Dr. Adediran, is that you?
No.
So it's not public comment. I don't
public,
think.
mayor and council.
Right. And it's actually a discussion that I had with one of my council members in reference to the way that we've been handling public comments. And we've been missing out on hearing public comments, especially for individuals who email their comments. And so, I just wanted us to have a discussion on what probably makes sense if we have the 36 minutes. Is it a way that we can divide it where we are addressing and we're hearing from both individuals that are here in public and individuals who are sending emails? Like what can we restructure that in some type of way?
Councilmember Arnold, I was, with the item on the agenda, I was thinking, what if the 36 minutes was for people in person, and then the emailed comments would be read after that?
It's up for discussion.
They said, 8 people would constitute the 3 minutes, which would bring us to 36. That would be 10.
Yeah, right.
Right.
No, that's not right. 8 times 3.
Right.
But then what we would be doing now, when we discussed it, we were looking at still staying with the same time frame of 36 minutes, or maybe extending a little bit beyond the 36 minutes, and I guess we could all decide that. But I think the key is that most people that send in the email comments have actually sent those in before the meeting begins and earlier in the day. And by reading the email comments after we have had everybody in the auditorium have an opportunity to speak, it really is cutting out the persons that are sending the email comments. So kind of at least doing something to make an more even playing field for the email comments. So I think that was kind of
Right. And
that
so,
was the discussion that we had.
Right,
And
so, with the 36 minutes that we have in place, is it a way that we can divide that time up to allow where we hear from both individuals that are here in person and to be able to have emails read as well?
Well, I would say, it's very important that we hear from everybody that we can. And sometimes it's not possible to hear from every single person, obviously. Dividing it up more fairly makes good sense. Now, generally, traditionally, most councils and county school boards or whatever have you, they tend to give a slight priority to folks that bother to come down, get out of their house and come down in person. Now, that's not possible for everybody via thus the email, so we want to make sure we got some equity there for them as well. But if we could look at increasing the time and going into 40 some odd minutes, and get a number that works for us, 45 minutes or whatever, and maybe extend it that way. There's enough additional room to get the email comments in, or
Well, if we divide it, I'm doing math here on my paper. We're saying 3 minutes that we're allowed, right?
Right.
We can do 9 at 27 minutes in person, 5 email, 15 minutes.
Sounds fair. Whatever y'all think.
So
What do
only
you
the
think?
first 9 people would be able to speak?
Right.
well, that's if they take. Some people don't necessarily take 3 minutes.
Right.
The other.
Right. Well, I was just trying to
Right.
divide the number up to make it make sense
The
in some type of way.
other piece is donating at least 15 minutes to the email comments, doing them first, and then let's say that the email comments don't necessarily take 15 minutes, then you use the remainder of the time for the in-person, which might give us more time for. I'm just looking
Right,
at
right.
different. Nothing's in stone. We're just talking, everybody.
So are we saying putting the email comments in front of the people that actually come down here, basically to afford them first billing over the people that actually came, or is that?
Well, probably not, but I just know that we need to allocate time for the emails.
Okay.
Ms. Brown, typically how many email comments do we receive?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Currently, it varies depending on what's on the agenda. It can
Certainly.
be as many as 8 to 10, or less than 4 and 5.
Okay. So I would say from experience that most of those comments do not take the full 3 minutes. I think that's fair, that most of them do not. It makes me uncomfortable that we would curtail the folks who are here, who show up to speak, and to Councilman Carn's point about giving deference to those folks who have gotten out of their house and come over to City Hall. I think it makes sense given, if we're getting probably, let's say 6 on average. You said 4 or 5, maybe 8 to 10. Let's go 6.
6.
Somewhere in there.
6 times 3,
That we know that most of them typically do not take those 3 minutes. And it would seem to me that I would hate to curtail people who have shown up to speak. If we can keep the 36 that we've got and then just add on the reading, it may not be that, it's probably an additional 10 minutes max that we're really looking at practically speaking, but it gives us the flexibility to still have the opportunity for folks who have come, and then not cut off someone's email comment in the middle because we hit that 45-minute mark or whatever the case may be. Just a thought.
The other thing, just kind of still, on the same line, we usually don't use the entire 36 minutes for public comment, because what happens is we normally have time to read the emails. We just don't have a lot of time. So I think the last meeting, we may have had like 5 minutes left for email comments. So what even about, the other option is that maybe we should just look at, we don't have to make a decision. We're not trying to make a decision.
No. Right. This is all about.
Why don't we just start monitoring what this looks like over the next few meetings? Because I would be interested, because we haven't really been watching it that way, but you feel like you want to definitely give. I know the email comments have been kind of slided lately. So why don't we continue with the way we have things right now, but start looking at, once we finish the public comments here, how much time do we have for the emails? And we know that we can always, we've already put in place an ordinance that we can extend the time. So we still can go ahead and extend time on a case-by-case basis, but why don't we just monitor it for maybe the next few meetings and kind of look at how much time are we spending with in-person, and then how much time is needed to be able to complete the emails.
Well,
That sounds like a fair assessment.
Yeah. Well, city manager, I would suggest maybe yourself and Queenie, maybe y'all get together and look at the time, take a look at some of the emails and actually to time it and see how it looks. I guess the point is we want to include everybody. We want to hear from everybody.
Yeah.
Anytime someone's not able to finish up here, I'm always one that wants to hear the rest of their comments, even when they're talking about me. Hey, that's the name of the game, and I want to hear it all, and I want them to finish their thoughts, everybody that comes up here. We want to try to accommodate everybody. Now, it may not be possible to keep it going until the cows come home, but we definitely want to do a better job to make sure we want everybody to get their voice heard. That's for sure.
And I would like to make a recommendation. Most of the public comments are designed for the elected officials to understand the concerns of so they're not just to be heard publicly. They mostly trying to get out. I got a constituent who can't come about a creek that he won't restore it. So my point is, maybe we should get the public comments in advance of the meeting, so that, let me finish, so that you can understand what your constituents are concerned about. And because we got unlimited time when we talk at night, and that's an opportunity for y'all to just try and address some of y'all's constituents' concerns, because there's no time limit on mayor and council's reports.
Well, see, then that's the second part of my discussion. That's the second part.
Yeah, before you go to the second part, what I'm simply saying is, when people read public comments, they're basically trying to get their elected officials to understand what their issue is. It wouldn't hurt if the clerk was to simply send the public comments to us before we get here. Just like you get these agenda packages on Thursday. You can start getting these public comments, and if you really want to know what your constituent needs are, you could just read it.
Well, Councilmember, to that point, people have the opportunity to send in their comments until 7:30. So I could see the benefit of, in regard to following up, to certainly getting those afterward, but it seems like it might be double work for the clerk's office to give us
Or get them a different deadline. If the goal is for you, for your council member or your elected official to fix a problem, that's the bottom line for me, not just to hear people complain. So that's all I'm saying.
I hear where you're going with that. Keep in mind also, I get emails from my residents about issues directly too. And some of the initiatives that I have proposed over the years have come directly from my residents. Our community request, community enhancement request, different stuff like that. So we also have that avenue where they can email us directly on our city emails. I'm fine with hearing the public comments when we get them at the meeting. City manager, I am concerned with our follow-up to the responses, and we need to tighten that up a bit, but we talked about that before, so that's something we definitely want to look at, where we're responding to their concerns and public comments and accurately addressing them. So we want to definitely work on that and let folks know we hear them and that we're working to remedy the situation or the comments, if there is a remedy to the comments, of course. So, yeah.
Councilmember Arnold?
Okay,
Got
so
a part two?
part two. Part two is, and thank you, Councilman Gay, for opening the door for this conversation, which is, thinking about our comments. We tell the public that they are restricted to 3 minutes, but then we are unlimited. And so, what are your thoughts around us having a limitation to our comments as well?
Well, I was watching some of the testimony that the Congress was giving, and they limit themselves. You can't just talk unlimited. The speaker or the presiding officer will say, Congressman, your time is... They're very passionate what they're saying, but they have to stop talking. And I think we should give ourselves the same restriction.
Yeah.
What makes sense to you?
I don't know. That's why we're having a conversation.
Well,
what do you all think?
Now for me, 3 minutes is definitely not enough for me. I could do 5 minutes. I could squeeze 5 minutes in and get it in. A lot of times we want to cover a lot of stuff, but
So 5 minutes.
that's just I could live with 5 if I had to.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I could live with 5. In fact, mine tonight will be about 5.
Now, if someone's shorter than 5 minutes and someone actually has
No,
something,
you cannot.
No,
No.
we're not gonna do that.
No,
Absolutely not.
I just
No.
want to make sure. Hey, well, we're residents too. Just a little fairness there, But I'm fine with 5 minutes.
I like the 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm definitely fine with 5 minutes.
Mayor, where are you at with it?
Are you good with that?
Five.
Good, okay.
5 minutes. No, that's
So we didn't vote, but we're just talking.
In 5 minutes, that's a famous Houdini song, so that's appropriate. Some of those folks in my generation know what I'm talking about. But, all right.
All right. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I'm sorry. I heard him in my ear, but then I apologize. All right. So we're moving on to Pavilion rental fees. Councilmember Gay, I think this was...
I didn't remember even asking for this, but since we have it, you got some good information. Whoever put this together, I guess Ms. Johnson can articulate, but I was in Somerset, Pennsylvania, and I was trying to park, and the meter was a dime. And I was like, a dime? I'm like, they still in the 60s. So some of these fees that we got to look at the other cities, I mean, it's no comparison, so I'll open it up with that.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. Councilman Gay, you did bring this up. We had a discussion. I think we were just kind of looking at, cost. And at one time, the rentals were $25 with a refundable fee. And it's important to note that, our ordinance says that you must be a city resident to rent our pavilions. So it is for the residents. And so I did give some information, did some research, and looked at the surrounding cities. So you could just kind of see an idea of what some of the costs were. We're currently doing $25 for a rental period with proof that you live in the city limits. And that proof is, your ID and a city utility bill with that person that is renting the facility that's inside the city limits. So there was just some discussions just looking at what we're doing. It's just recommendation that we typically do $35 an hour for our rentals in our facilities, along with $35 per staff if it's after hours, after a normal staff fee. So that was a recommendation that we were looking at, possibly $35. That's very similar to, not that we have to compare ourselves, but similar to what South Fulton's doing at $35 an hour. They kind of change it depending on the size of the pavilion, whether it's a small, medium, or a large pavilion. So these were just the recommendations looking at, we're not trying to make money off of our residents, but it is causing, there's a lot of people, we looked at sizes of the pavilions, trying to minimize the impact for the parking, which is the biggest problem that we have, because a lot of our parks don't have parking that can support having 3, 5 rental pavilions at 50 people a piece in it with that type of parking. So just want to make sure that those are coming into the park can appreciate and utilize the facilities without having any parking issues. And then there's also some trash pickups. During high season is the only time that we rent the pavilions. Every other time it's first come, first serve. When we don't set time, if you rent it, you have it for the whole day. I've looked at other places that do it by time, slots. I'm not really thinking that's what we need to do because most people want to go out there and spend the whole day out there. Family reunions, birthday parties, baby showers, cookouts, things to that nature. So we definitely want to keep it warm and welcoming and not price ourselves out of what our residents utilizing our facilities. And then we're getting some higher demand for some special permits for our parks, and that's bringing some demand into the park on top of that. So that's just something we're recommending. We were looking at $35 an hour with a max of the total number of 10 hours. It's 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the evening are the park hours. And typically we close the restrooms and everything a little bit earlier to clean up and get the park cleaned up before the end of that time period. So I'm welcome to hear any feedback. It is just an open discussion.
Can you just read out, not the whole thing, the 6 cities you got on here and their rate?
Sure,
going
I
through
should have probably provided that in the slide, yeah. So we've got Hateville. They do a basic rental. They do a weekday, Monday through Thursday at $300, and nights and weekends they double at $600. And they do an extended package, and that's for 4 hours, and then they do an extended package to go into the same scenario, visitors extended hours, $600, and then weekends they do even more at $950, with a deposit of $175. For additional services, they add on for setup, alcohol fee, some video projector equipment, PA system, and then so just some additional things to add. They have some cost for those. For the City of Atlanta, they require a bond. And then their permits are done at specific distance. They have some different things done on, so they're just looking at a bond. But they do have noise abatement, which we actually have also in our, we don't want loud music because we want people to enjoy what they're doing. They might not appreciate the music by them. So they have perimeters on the sound for that, for the pavilions. The City of South Fulton does buy for the residents. For a small is 30, for a medium is 40, and 50 for a large per hour. And then the non-city for South Fulton, they were all $5 more, 35 for a small, 45 for a medium, and 55 per hour for a large. And then they also do a nonprofit organization, which seems to be similar to the non-resident fees. And then they have also a profit organization, which is $5 more for 40, 50, and 60 for the small, medium, and large. Clayton County, Henry County does a $150 rental for 4 hours plus $150 refundable cleanup and key fee. They must give out the keys for the restrooms. And then for a non-resident was $180 plus the additional $150 for a refundable. Clayton County, they have them based on the peak seasons, April through October 31st, which is very similar to us, is St. Vincent's Pavilion's $300, St. Bart's $300, Aruba is $450, and the St. Thomas is $600. So I'm assuming that's based on the size of the pavilions also. And they do the non-peak November 1st through the 31st, which we do not rent. We don't charge during off-season. Most people are not, either walking in the park, they're not doing parties. And then they have a $150, $300, and $300 for those same pavilions with a refundable security deposit of $150. And then Fayette County does an outdoor facility at $30 per hour, and then out of the county does they double the fee at $60 per hour. And then they did something which is very unusual, is an annual pass for the park pavilion. So I'm not sure if they still do have to reserve that pavilion in order to make sure that they have it. And then Carroll County did it at $10 per hour for $70 per day at an 80, with a discount of that if they did an 8-hour. and I'm quite sure about the supervisor, if they needed somebody to oversee or staff assistance, they did a $15 per hour additional for that when applicable. So those were just some surrounding areas, just cost-wise, to look at.
And the other thing we got to consider, we talked about in the budget, we got to add police to the parks. So we got to pay that fee.
Okay, yeah, because that was something that was addressed.
Go
Yeah, so that was some of the confusion, sure.
When she was, Michelle was saying from 6 a.m. to 9, since we were considering that, I would say 7, ended all the rentals at 7. Since the parks closed at 9, it would give public safety for those slow movers a chance for those who are going to buy to be gone by 7. But some of those slow movers, if we have to come out there, if we don't have to deal with every pavilion, maybe just 1 or 2, if you get the rentals in at 7.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay,
And the other thing, my colleagues, I want y'all to also keep in mind, we did a special events rental about a month ago. How much is a special events rental? And what is the permit fee?
We don't have a fee
So
for
this
special events.
this vendor had approximately 500 guests. He had vendors, the paint and sit. He had vendors, no police. We had one, but my point is,
This was at one of our parks.
This is last Friday.
the paint and sit. He charged vendors.
We need to come
He had
up
about 500 guests, no police, no. The good news is it was an amazing event, but the bad news is we totally got caught off guard. We didn't even know that was getting ready to
That was
happen.
the gentleman that came before you
Yeah.
about the paint and silk, and we let him do it for free.
For
But
free?
as Councilman Gay was saying, when he called me, he was saying it was like 500 people, and it was like close to 6:30. So we sent more units out. He said it was very peaceful.
Very peaceful.
And I told the watch commander, don't go make a fuss, but just kind of walk around and ask people to start disseminating, because it was getting late in the evening.
Is that allowable? I mean, are we so?
It's a big.
Council allowed it.
Well, no, I meant the him selling
Well,
tables for other vendors.
I think the thing is, maybe if we're gonna start renting out our park, the whole park, maybe we need to look at what that costs, because he got it for free.
We're charging our residents.
The point, the point that, exactly.
We're charging our residents.
It's costing us at the end of the day.
Ask for a very detailed proposal of anticipation and kind of mandating that they stick to that.
Yeah.
Michelle, question, deposits. Did I miss, we don't have a?
No, we don't. So again, our pavilions are for our residents. So again, before we did the $25 charge just for a flat rental, it was a deposit of $25 refundable if the park was clean. But the amount of time and staff that we're putting towards a $25 refundable, so I mean, it costs man hours to do that. So it was just something that it was brought to y'all, and we had a discussion. Do we want to charge? And we were, yes, we want to charge a minimal fee. And again, we're not trying to, but with the special permits, we're bringing more people in that we want to make sure that we can accommodate our residents first in the park.
Yeah, I definitely am in agreement with the fee of $25, or if we decide to go to $35, I guess that will be a discussion. But the question is that even for that rate, when it's not left, so you pay that amount, but I still think that perhaps a deposit may be something, a refundable deposit, if everything is still left the way that it was found. Other question that I had is, on the agreement that we have currently, it does give a load in terms of, if I'm renting a pavilion, I know that one pavilion I can have 36 people, another one I can have 16. I think that's important that we have some way to monitor that as well, because, a person may reserve something for 16, then they have 50 people there. And because what's happening, it helps us in terms of, now I'm looking from public safety. Because if our police department is aware that there's going to be 200 people in pavilions in the park, then we know that the propensity to have crime is greater. It's amazing and it's great, and I think it's because they were paint and sit. It was the group. It was a peaceful group. Yeah. But that's another thing, because we have been having quite a few things going on, specifically at Phillips Park. And I think that if we know in advance, so if there's a way that we can have greater monitoring, and I know this is not you, this
would be the
Chief
park
Rogers.
rangers. Yeah, during that time.
It's a whole
department work
building and
together.
grounds.
Yes.
So this is interdepartmental. But if we could really not only know the number, because they're going to rent it based on the pavilion on that number, but we still probably need to have that confirmed. And people need to understand that if they go over that number, that there may be a penalty if they do not let the city know, because we're letting you have this for $25.
Absolutely.
Wait, hold on. Let's just let Ms. Johnson respond to that, and then I'll continue.
Absolutely. In fact, this is the first year that we looked at the actual pavilions to give a square footage. We worked with Damon to give us what is the capacity. So now we do need to have that enforcement, and then we were also needing support for that enforcement, because a park ranger is not an officer. So they're there to clean the restrooms and clean up the park. So we need that support backup for those park rangers, that if it is, this is what's on there, because they may be writing down what they're supposed to write down, but there are more people coming out. And that does impact everybody in the park, not just those that are renting there.
Right. Even the number is for public works, because if we know over a weekend we're going to have 500 people coming through a park, we may need to have sanitation get in there and unload those trash cans after the first day. So it's an interdepartmental issue, but we're growing. People are coming to our city, which is a great thing, but we also want to be able to accommodate it and have people safe and be clean.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
The discussion was about charging more money,
Right.
not more resources. What she just said was that cities are charging upwards of $300-400 per pavilion. That was the conversation. Maybe we don't need to answer it tonight, but it takes more money to provide those quality services. That's all I was saying.
It was a good discussion. Like I said, it got us looking at the capacity of the parks, the capacity of the pavilions. We want them clean. We want them to look good when people come through. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that is the reason why I mentioned even having a refundable deposit. And I think you and I discussed that for a quick minute, was because if you're not going to increase your fee, then there needs to be something out there to pay, because we've either trashed the place and then leave it, some way we've got to accommodate this.
Yeah, there's an impact in the park regardless. Yes.
It is, exactly.
Yes.
Damage to the park,
Councilmember Carr?
And thank you, Michelle. This is good information. Glad to see we're looking at this. I think we need to look at an increase possibly, but if we want them clean, we need to do a deposit. And I know logistically it can be challenging or whatever have you, but city manager, there's a very simple fix to something like this. They can just come by City Hall and drop a deposit at City Hall customer service. As easy as that. That way we know who's coming. They put their money down, so it doesn't have to be, calculus to get it together. But let's come up, if we're gonna go that direction, let's come up with a system. I vaguely remember that paint and sip thing that came, but I don't think any of us had any idea it was 500 people, because it would have been, you needed security and extra trash service and everything. So we want to be more careful when we screen that stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Michelle. Also, I would say I think 9-hour rentals are too long for anybody with any project and any event that they're having. I think a max of 6 hours. We're a small city, and we want to make sure other residents get an opportunity to enjoy some of that Saturday or enjoy some of that Sunday too. I mean, within reason. We get some pretty big crowds out there. Again, that's just my opinion. In terms of our park rangers, now, Chief, I mean, all of our park rangers are afforded and given police backup if it's needed, correct? Okay. Well, we want to make sure that they're, monitoring things, and if something is getting out of hand, I'm assuming they have a direct line to whoever they need. Or if they don't, we want to make sure that they do.
Well, one of the things that I've started is, because we've had an increase of activity in the parks, that we're doing overtime for officers who are off to come in, and they're monitoring all the parks between some of those peak hours.
All right, I like the per hour model though, but again, I think that 9-hour time frame is a little too long for me. I just want everyone to be able to enjoy it, so.
I've had some family barbecues that have gone that long. I mean, setup and breakdown and all that other stuff. I don't necessarily have a huge issue with that aspect of it, but I do agree with Councilmember Gay that we're probably undercutting ourselves here, especially in relation to our peers. And $25, I think, if someone has the intent of not doing the right thing, it's not, $25 isn't enough to deter them from trashing.
That's right.
I mean, I think the per hour model is something that makes a lot of sense. But anyone else?
I just wanted to also add, I would like for us to also make sure that we vet these, especially individuals that are coming in to use our parks. Example, last weekend, if they are going to sell vendor tables, we need to know that, right? So that we can plan appropriately, and we need to really, I guess, have some type of process in place. Is that what we want? Do we want to give our parks to someone for free, yet they're going to turn around and make a few $1,000s off of it? Just, something to think about.
The special permits does go through the city clerk's office, so we do try to work through meeting with those special permit, making sure we understand exactly and what we are able to provide. A lot of people think we have things for special events, and we don't necessarily have those for that. So we work and communicate on that, and definitely want to be a positive experience for anybody that comes in, whether they're doing a special permit or they're coming in to rent a pavilion.
Yeah, maybe we should have something on that application to inquire or dig a little bit deeper. And I guess someone made the comment of if they violate whatever they have on that application, that we have some type of penalty.
Yes, ma'am. Me and Ms. Johnson has been discussing trying to revamp it and make it better.
Yeah.
Because there have been people who have come in and did something different. And we're not here, so.
Right.
Yeah, and we do get used and abused.
Yeah.
There's no skin in.
Right.
And they walk away, and we've had Cameron and Ms. Preston and I and Queenie. We had a discussion last week. What can we do better? Because we want to provide, but we want to understand and the impact on everything that's coming into the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's certainly a balance, and I think that this conversation is a good start to that. And it sounds like we need to continue the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And keep on working towards trying to find a solution.
Yeah.
But we've got about 7 minutes before the regular session starts.
Thank you.
So we will
Appreciate
see
it.
you back at 7:30.
Thank you.
All right.